missing somebody?
He'll come back. So we are in Yaakov, and please subscribe to the channel, give it a thumbs up, and hit the notification so you can always know when a new class is being given. We already have, still have, I don't know what the word is anymore, 115 subscribers. We're on our way to 1,000. You can be the 1,000th as long as you get the other 800 odd to join up. Okay.
Be the 116th if they try.
Right. Okay, and now we're continuing on in the Gemara Shabbos, and again 55b4 in the Ashko. So it says, Amarav Shmuel Bar Nachmani Amarav Yonatan. He said, Kol HaOmer, whoever says, B'nai Shmuel Chatu, that the sons of Shmuel sinned, Enu Ela Toeh. Once again, we have this concept where the Chumash is, where the Tanach is going to tell us that these people sinned, and we're going to try to say why they didn't sin. Okay, so you have it, right?
Yeah.
Okay. As it says in the Torah, it says in the book of Shmuel, Vayhi ki zaken Shmuel vanav lo halchu b'drachav, that when Shmuel became old, his sons did not go in his ways. B'drachav hu lo halchu, which teaches that it was in his lofty ways that they did not go. However, they also did not sin. So when we read the verse that when Shmuel became old, his sons did not go in his ways, we understand that normally in that they sinned. The question is, what did they sin in? Okay? So, but the Gemara is saying whoever says they sinned is wrong, because when we think of sin, we think of sin, real sin, of eating treif or breaking Shabbos, okay, or adultery, whatever the flavor of the month is, okay. So here he's saying they didn't do anything. What happened was, when it says they didn't go on their ways, the Gemara wants to argue. Well, Rav Yonatan wants to argue that it means they did not go in the lofty ways that their father did. Now, if you remember, when we were discussing, where is it? Is this? It just tells you where it is. Okay, so here, if you look at number 2, actually 1. Okay, whoever says that they sinned by taking bribery and perverting justice is mistaken. That's how Rashi explains it. However, they did wrong, namely they didn't live up to their father's elevated status. That's what the Gemara will say. And then it says in verse 2, number 2, the Gemara Makos teaches that Eli cursed Shmuel's condition conditionally, stating that if Shmuel did not reveal to him Hashem's prophecy, Shmuel would be like Eli. He would have errant sons. Even though the condition was never met, the curse was fulfilled. Okay, once again, we have this concept that we've talked about many, many, many times. Whenever a tzaddik, a righteous person, says something, even if the condition is not fulfilled, still, the minute he said it, those words become real, and they have an impact. So we ought to be very, very careful with the words that we use, because those words will come back to haunt us, maybe quickly, maybe 20, 30, or even 100 years later, they will come back to haunt us. So be very, very careful with what you say, because in reality, we are all tzaddikim. How do I know that we are all righteous? Everybody in this room is righteous. Matter of fact, everybody alive today is righteous. How do I know that?
They're not dead.
Correct.
That's what?
They're not dead.
Oh.
They're all righteous. And what's my proof that they're all righteous? What's the famous rule that the Rambam brings, that Maimonides brings? That the minute I'm more wicked than I am righteous, I'm dead. That's the day I die. It's the moment I die. Okay, so therefore, if somebody is alive, they have some merit that's keeping them alive, which means they're still on the righteous side of the fence.
In someone's eyes.
In God's eyes, not in somebody's eyes. In God, only God. The rest of us are irrelevant. We are all irrelevant. When it comes to who's righteous, who's not, I don't know. According to us, it's a matter. We could see somebody righteous, and we could consider them guilty.
So we can be, in other words, signed into the book of life on a daily basis, and it's up to us whether that happens.
Yes, 100%. Every day we make a decision that we are going to live. And if we decide we're going to die, then all we have to do to die, if you really want to die, you don't have to commit suicide as taking a gun to your head. All you have to do is be totally wicked, and you too will die. But remember, if you have something that is, look at Asaph. Look at, I don't want to get too lost in this, but look at Asaph. What did Asaph do? He honored his father. That honor, because we don't know what the reward is for the mitzvah. We don't know the reward for mitzvah. We don't have that. In other words, I used to have a program called Torah Dollars.
On TV? Or?
No, I had a program. I was a principal in school, and even as a teacher, I used to use this program. It was a very good program, actually, but I did it as a principal more, where I pay the students with Torah dollars for what they do. If they came in on time, they would get $1. If they raised their hand, they would get $1. If they got 100 in the test, they would get $5. Well, that was a big thing.
Would you ever pay someone to leave early?
No, I didn't pay them to leave early. But it's the point is that it turned into, and the whole gimmick was, by the way, it really comes from Room 222.
What?
Room 222.
TV
The TV show in the 70s, I think it
Karen
was.
Valentine and Michael Constantine.
Wow, that's a good memory on your part. Okay, it really came from, there was one episode
She
there.
didn't fly, so it wasn't Sally Field.
There was one episode in which the teacher, I forget the guy's name, but it was the teacher who came up with that concept of paying them to learn, because it was a very, very bad class. He paid them, then he turned it into a game sort of thing, and they would get to buy stuff. Now, so that's what I did with those kids. I've made Torah dollars. But in that Torah dollar program, like in any normal program, I will know what each point is worth. I will know the value of each point, right? So if I come in on time, I get $1. If I get a great mark in the test, $5. If I didn't, by the way, it didn't go the other way. I didn't punish. I wanted a positive approach. But let's say I would have punished. I would have said, if you speak out, I take $1 away. Okay? That sort of thing. That's in our programming. But God doesn't do that for us. He didn't do us a favor. God said, do not murder. God said, do not steal. God said, do not eat pork. Let me use those three. Okay? If I'm one who's here, again, I have 3 commandments. Do not steal, do not murder, do not eat pork. What is the most important thing there in your mind?
You would think, do not
Murder, do not murder. Then the second one would be?
steal.
Don't steal. And the third one would be? Don't eat pork. Okay, don't eat pork. Eat pork. Okay. Don't eat pork. You would have thought that, and you would have thought if the guy steals, okay, it's bad. Murders are really horrible. Eating pork is gefährlich, not so bad. Okay, that's what you would think, right? Now, in God's mind, okay, maybe eating pork is the absolute worst, because that is the one you would trample over.
Our sins weighted in that way.
We don't know.
We don't know. That's the point. I don't know. So now what happens, my point is, let's say I didn't eat pork, but I robbed from somebody. Am I totally wicked? I don't know, because I didn't eat pork.
You know, you could find out if the pork was sick and you ate it and died, that would be justice, then you would know.
Okay. Okay. But you understand what I'm saying? Since we don't know what each one is worth, so therefore I don't know by me doing one act if that's going to push me over to the tzaddik side. I don't know that. So that's why when we look at people and we see them ripping people off and doing all these things, murdering, and we say, oh, but Rambam says he should be dead. No, again, that's in our system. In our system, it would make sense that he should die because you did the ultimate thing. As what do we say about a person who died in the armed forces? They made the ultimate sacrifice.
Yeah.
How do you know that's the ultimate sacrifice? In our minds, that's the ultimate sacrifice. But maybe the ultimate sacrifice is something else. In God's mind. We don't know that. So that's why I'm saying when it comes to this, they couldn't have been sinners, totally sinners. because then they would have died
The
instantaneously.
whole scale, in other words.
Right.
Where are they?
Right. So, and there, if their whole scale, obviously there were still, as we all in this room, in this world, everywhere, everybody in this world right now, whoever's alive right now, is at tzaddik. 100%.
Can we flip it to those who?
Are dead?
Yes.
Yeah, those who are dead.
My parents were never evil people, but they
No, it's, what happened, we all have an expiration date.
oh, fresh if used by or something.
Right, we all have an expiration date. So if we make the expiration date, fine. If we don't know if we're going to make the expiration date, though, and again, so maybe again, I'm not saying that anybody's parents are evil, though I'm not going to get into that game. But by the way, I want to think about this. When we say Kaddish for our parents, okay, we say Kaddish for 11 months, not 12 months. We're in mourning for 12 months for our parents. We can't go to a simcha for the 12 months after their death until the yortzeit. We can't do anything. But we stop saying Kaddish 11 months. Why? Why we say Kaddish at all? That's the first question.
Well, it's what we've. It helps their spirit ascend.
Yeah.
It helps the spirit ascend. Why do they need the ascension? Because of something because we want to be a repair for any of their sins that they may have done. So we help them in their cleansing, their purgatory, if you will, to become so they can go to Gan Eden, the Garden of Eden, whatever. That's celestial place that we would call heaven in English. Okay, so then they get to be with God once again. There's no separation anymore. So now what happened? But we said, why do we go for a whole year? Because only the most wicked stay. Well, I shouldn't say the most. There's some people who lose everything, but it's only the most wicked who stay in Gehenna for 12 months. And chas v'shalom, that I would think my parent was one of the most wicked. So I don't say it for 12 months. I stop at 11, saying I helped you, but I know I really didn't have to. But I was doing it aus kavod, out of the honor. I had a responsibility to honor you and to help you as much as I could. So that's all I can do. But I wouldn't think that my parent was so wicked that he had to that I had to say it for 12 months, right?
Is this also a Sephardic tradition?
I don't know Sephard.
You don't know.
I don't know Sephard. I assume it's a halacha. So I'm not sure that wouldn't be it. I assume they all do. I assume everybody does the same thing. The only thing different about Sephard that I noticed from one guy, but I don't know if it was. I never saw it before. I only saw it with this one guy. He, at the 11th day, he stopped saying Kaddish that day for 24 hours and he went back to it.
Really?
Yeah, that I never saw.
Ah.
I thought one guy did that and I said, what's pshat? What do you do?
Finishing out the final month for a total of.
Right. But he, well, no, to the end, to the your side. But he, like I said, he skipped on the 11th, what would have been the 11th month in one day. He didn't say Kaddish. He wanted to say, make a distinction. Huh. Then he picked up the rest of the time to say it.
Which means that he didn't say it 3 times that day, right?
He didn't say it all that day.
Yeah. I know, but he would have said it 3. He had been saying it 3 times a day.
Right. So he didn't say it all.
What was his answer that you asked him?
He said that's the custom that he had.
Really?
Yeah, so I never heard it, but again, there's customs are customs. They're all over the place.
Have to ask some other Sephardim.
Yeah, maybe the rabbi would know. Yeah, ask Rabbi Cohen if that's some such thing. But it's like I said, most people will do the same sort of stuff. But it's again, we're making a distinction because we don't want to. So while we know that our parents weren't perfect and they made their mistakes, we don't want to believe that they were wicked to the nth degree. So and the point is again that when somebody is alive, as long as they're alive, they're righteous.
They're more good than that.
Right, in God's eyes, only in God's eyes. I want to be very strong with that because in our eyes, we would think a lot of people don't deserve to live.
It's interesting. The mitzvahs were given in terms of punishment, though.
Positive and negative.
Seemed to fit more human conception of guilt and punishment.
What does that mean?
Well, I mean for capital punishment like that.
Yeah, no, the punch. Well, no, because when you would say, I don't want to get lost. I really don't want to get lost in this. But when you're going to say that because you don't keep Shabbos, you should be put to death, that is not equivalent.
Oh, no. Okay,
That's
so
not in my mind.
Not for murdering somebody.
Okay, but even there, you have to be. It has to be eyewitness testimony. It has to. There's so many things to stop the person from being killed.
So we have to qualify biblical punishment.
You have to say that when it came to the Torah, obviously what Hashem was saying was there is certainly a severity here as far as society is concerned. But again, if I break Shabbos, I'm also chayav mita. If I obligated to die, if I eat on Pesach, if I eat chametz on Pesach, I'm being spiritually cut from the Jewish people. How is that fair? How is that, what's the big deal?
Again, so you brought up the fact of the two witnesses, and you have to both independently want them. So,
it's very hard.
It didn't happen very often.
Right, it's very hard. It says, it even says if a court killed anybody in 2 years, they were considered killer court. So it's very hard. Okay, so let's continue. It says, Vayitu achrei habatsa. It says, Elamar animakayim. So what am I supposed to do when it says, Vayitu achrei habatsa? That they turned away after monetary gain. In other words, it says they took bribery and perverted justice. What am I going to do with that? So it says, doesn't mean that Shalo asu k'mazeh bravihem. It means they did not act in accordance with the deeds of their father. What happened was the father Shahaya Shmuel tzaddik mechazu v'chol makomot shavadanotam v'areim, because Shmuel the righteous, he used to travel around all the Jewish areas and judge the people in their cities. Shenermar, as it says, v'halach midei shana v'shana v'savid el v'gilgal v'mitzpeh v'shafat Yisrael. As it says, he went every year and made a circuit of Beit El, Gilgal, Mitzpah, and judged Israel. Vehem also came. However, they didn't do this. The sons didn't do this. What did they do? El Yashu Bareim. Rather, they sat in their cities and judged. So for him, in order to increase the income of their attendants and scribes. We did this one since we're studying it. Everybody should be very much up on to date on this. Okay, what happened was basically they worried about their home economy. They were a good businessman, and they said, okay, we need to give our scribes and our attendants pranasa, a livelihood. So therefore, instead of going around like Dad did, a circuit judge, we'll stay in one place and let everybody come to us.
And they were paid to do, this was their job, they were paid to
the people in the town.
The
judges weren't paid. No. The judges weren't paid. But the people who have to write the contracts out, the lawyers, they are paid. So I have a choice. Do I travel to you in order to hear the case and then hire the people in that area?
How many sons were there?
Two. Well, you could go to other courts. You could either go to them or you could go to other courts. They were considered the big guys.
One couldn't stay put while the other traveled?
They didn't want to, I guess. I don't know. Again, they're trying to help out their economy, the local economy. So yes, you have to think about that. What am I doing when I become the circuit judge? When I become the circuit judge, now I'm spreading the money out to everybody. So what happens? People come to me and say, well, you couldn't keep the business in town. I can't travel. You can. You're a big shot. You get to travel with the Cadillac Coupe de Ville, but I don't get to travel. I have to stay. I have to support the family, and you support everybody. What's the mitzvah? Yeah. When I'm giving tzedakah, what's the mitzvah? To give it to Elkhart or to give it to South Bend? I'm living in South Bend. For all those who are out there in YouTube land, okay. Where's the mitzvah? The biggest where? Your community, your family, then community. And then extended community. So the fact that there are Jews in Elkhart, I heard there are. Okay. So the fact that there are Jews in Elkhart, when it comes to giving the tzedakah, I have to first give it to South Bend, and then to expand out. That's all. So here, if they're living in, they were, I believe in not Ramah, that was the other one. Where were they living? I forget already where they were living. But the point is that they stayed in their town because I said the mitzvah is here. They could have argued that the mitzvah is in my town, and then after I get them fed and everything else, then we can go out. But people are poor; they're starving, so I have to build up my economy first. That's could be again. That's perverting justice. Why? Why is that not good as compared to what their father did? It delays, and what else? People don't want to travel. I have to want to travel. Right? Why would I don't want to go from Beit El to Gilgal and so on and so forth.
No, if you have a complaint against somebody, but you're too weak or too poor to travel to go to where the judge is.
Correct. Or I don't want to take the time out. I want to take the time, so leave me alone. So maybe I'll get it judged maybe I'll get it judged in town. But that's I want to go to when I want to go to a doctor, I want the real doctor. I don't want the fake doctor. Right? I want the real guys. So I want people who are holy, the holy rollers. That's what I want. So as a result of that, but I can go, but my other guy won't go. The litigant won't go. So it's a holdup. So they're stealing from me. Their father went around. Be a good rabbi. Go around, see everybody. When this happens, you have circuit judges, right?
Yeah.
And like in Maine, they would go from Bangor to Portland. That's a nice.
Does that still happen typically?
Yeah, that's a nice 2-hour drive.
Do the judges still travel? Because the circuit, every place I live, there's a circuit court in that county, and everybody's got to go to that court.
No, I'm telling you, I know.
Maybe when you get to be more spread out areas,
right? Sometimes they had to go.
Do travel.
Sometimes they had to go.
I mean, that's where the name comes from.
Right.
Circuit court, because you're right.
And those people would appear on the ballot in each of those cities in which they serve, right?
That I don't know. I think it was just
soon.
I'm not sure. But you also have rabbis who were circuit rabbis, where they would travel from town to town to town, and they.
You read about it in the early 20th century.
No, right now. There's a rabbi who took. He called me up one time. He was looking for something for Rosh Hashanah, so I said, I haven't know this place. And I sent him, I won't say because everybody's online these days, but I said that place needs a rabbi. Maybe you can work into a job. So he became their rabbi. Then he's another rabbi somewhere else. He travels. He's in Hashgacha. He's in kosher business. So while he's traveling, he's also stopping at his little places, and he helps them out. It's also famous for the reform these days. Reform rabbis like you have of Michigan City. I think it's called Michigan City. They have a part-timer. So she goes to them, some other place. You pull your parnassus together.
I think the Chabad rabbi in Kalamazoo spends 2 Shabbosim in Kalamazoo and in one of the other cities up there.
There you go. So you still have this concept of people going around. And that way everybody gets something. And never the rabbis ripped apart, but it's a lot of travel time. It's a lot of wear and tear on the person. But that's what Shmuel was doing. So people saying, "Why aren't you following what your father did?" But again, were they stealing? No, there wasn't outright stealing.
Are there programs at the various yeshivas that you know of designed as an equivalent of a medical school where they place people directly where there are no doctors to place rabbis at these little traveling places immediately after graduation?
You know what? Why you does?
You told me before graduation or after?
No, after graduation.
So the answer is that the shul, again, let's not get lost in this. This is a different question. But very quickly, the shul has to want a rabbi, and they have to have money to pay the rabbi. YU, other yeshivas near Aleph, a lot of them will place. You have to go to the interview. I mean, they can't put you in. You have to interview. It's like anything, you have to interview for the position. And if the congregation likes you, then they hire you. There are plenty of places that are where they pay part-time salary for what they want a full-timer. But actually, most people are paying part-time salaries for what is a full-timer. Because if the rabbi would get, yes, I'm really picking on my own, I am a full-timer. But if you would think about what we do as compared to and put that into regular world business, then we are totally underpaid. Okay, and and I would say that for most.
It's like teaching.
More than teaching. You're the CEO already. You're CEO. You're running everything.
Yeah.
So certainly in the small places, you're running everything, and as a result, that would normally be a staff of 5-6 people. Even if you're only paying $20,000 apiece, it's still $100,000, and you're not paying the rabbi anywhere near $100,000.
On what basis could these two sons only have done that job? Could not someone else have lived
Again,
in the circus?
what?
And what?
The answer is that you're judged based upon your learning and reputation. So they followed their father with that, and they had a good background, and people accepted them. That's another thing. You have to be accepted. Whenever I go to a judge, I have to accept. Either it's because of the reputation, I accept it, or I accepted him upon myself. Like when I go for arbitration today, if I go to arbitration, I have to accept upon myself the arbitrator. Arbitrator? Is that how you say the word? Arbitrator?
Yeah.
Okay. Arbiter? Thank you.
Ah.
I have to accept upon myself the arbiter. I knew I was saying something wrong. You would think I would speak, my first language I would know. Okay.
Well, you're from Boston, New York. So.
I'm not from New York. No. I'm Bostonian, not New Yorker. Chassish on New Yorker. Okay. But nonetheless, but like I said, you have to accept upon yourself that arbiter. The same way, by the way, for those who go to Judge Judy, Judge Johnny, they all have to sign the piece of paper that whatever she says is a halacha for them. They have to say that. Okay. Let's go up. So Rav Yonatan, number 4. Let's do number 4 first. Shmuel's sons paid their attendants to travel throughout the land and to summon litigants to court, and they paid scribes to prepare legal documents such as shtaberoren, agreements to which judges would adjudicate the case, and igrot shum, certificates of estimated worth of property. Shmuel's sons incurred the added expense of dispatching their attendants to summon litigants in order to be able to remain at home and tend to their private businesses. Thus, they demonstrated their love of the crew, L-U-C-R-E. How do you say that? L-U-C-R-E. Lucre?
Lucre.
What does it mean?
Gain.
Gain, thank you. For it,
Like lucrative.
right,
Yeah,
okay?
yeah.
For if they had followed their father's example, their financial fortunes would have suffered. Okay, so there you go. So they wanted to do it. Not only did they want to help their economy, but they want to help themselves. Okay.
He says here parenthetically, in other words, they were not corrupt, but they did establish an expensive bureaucracy.
There you go.
Well, it sounds like building contracts and magnet or something.
No, that's true. But what I'm sending out, instead of me going out, I'm sending people out. So now I have to pay them. Somebody has to pay them to pay them. I have to, so you're making it, like you said, bureaucracy. It's also.
And he's probably getting his cut out of what they're charging, right?
Who's he?
The two sons.
I wouldn't. I'm not going to say they got a cut out of that. I would think they just want to stay home to run their business. But so I don't think they got a cut. I don't think they did. I think they just. But it's like anything, taxes you have to pay. Somebody's getting paid. So Rav Yonatan taught that the sons of Shmuel did not actually pervert justice. The Gemara reports that this view is not universally held. Once again, Ketanai. The question of whether Shmuel's sons actually perverted justice is a matter of the following dispute between the Tanaim. So Vayatu Acharei Habatza. Torah says, the scripture says that, and this is coming from. Where is it coming from? Doesn't say. Wait, I just want to, where it's coming from. Oh, that's interesting. Nobody's saying where it's coming from. Okay, let's just look at it. Scripture says they turned to, that's right. Okay, V'yatu acharei habatzo, that's what we read before, that they turned aside from monetary gain. After monetary gain. So Rav Meir Omer Chelkam Sha'al B'viyam. Rav Meir says this means they explicitly requested their portion of the crops. Rav Yehuda Omer Malai Hitilu Al Bale Batim. They robbed out merchandise to households. They jobbed out merchandise to householders. So there you go. They're giving, they gave their stuff to other people. Good. Rabbi Akiva Omer Kupi Yetera Al Shamasa Not Bizra. Oh, here's something that you want to argue. They forcibly took an excessive quantity of tithes because they were Levium. And Rabbi Yossi Omer Matznot Not Bizra, that they forcibly took the Torah mandated gifts. So what's going on here? It looks like everything. Starts with 5. It says, literally, they requested their portion with their mouths. The sons of Shmuel were Levites, and so were entitled to receive tithes. Since they were leaders of the generation and its judges, the people could not refuse their forthright solicitations. The result was that other impoverished Levites suffered for not receiving tithes.
Wow.
Okay, so they said, "Oh, look, I'm the guy."
They demanded it
They
from
demanded
too
it.
many people. In other words,
Right.
they demanded rather than letting the guy choose who he's going to give it to.
Right. Normally, it's your choice. Normally, it's your choice. Okay. So, according to Reb Meir, Shmuel's sons were not guilty of actually perverting justice. Okay. Now, Shmuel's sons provided various individuals with merchandise to sell, and in return received their profits. That's what it means, dropping out. Thus, when these individuals appeared in court as litigants, the judges were partial toward them and rendered prejudiced verdicts. And that's, by the way,
Who is this?
this is Rashi speaking. Hence, according to Rabbi Yehuda, Shmuel's sons indeed pervert justice. Rabbi Yehuda then is the Tanach who opposes Rabbi Yonason's view, who said they didn't. So here, what happens is, again, how do they pervert justice? It's an interesting concept. I give you a job. I tell you, here's merchandise, go sell it for me. You sell it for
Well,
me.
that's his business, his side business, in other words, right?
I'm not sure which is side at that point.
Oh.
But, I gave you, I know you do eBay, so I give you stuff for eBay. I say, here, sell it out. I drop it out to you to sell it eBay. Well, you sell it to eBay. Next thing I know, you're coming before me. You're already you're a partner working, whatever you want to look at that. But your bottom line is you're putting money in my pocket. So I know if I put you out of business, I put myself out of business. I'm prejudiced toward you. Even if I judge properly.
You know what you're doing? You know the statue of justice with the blindfold? By so doing, you're removing the blindfold.
Correct. Correct.
Nothing to indicate the balance going up and down, but they're removing the
Correct.
blindfold.
That's the point. So even though I may have said the right rule for you, I've broken the law, Jewish law. I'm not saying that I make a secular law. But I should have recused myself. It probably is secular too.
No, it is God, because of the
secular law.
blindfold. That's not...
I should have recused myself from that case. But that's why Yehuda is saying they stole. They perverted justice because they didn't do that. They jobbed it out, and then they came before them and they listened to the case. You can't be impartial at that point. Okay. And also it says they took more meiser than was proper. They weren't supposed to get more than 1/10 of the crop. That's theft. Okay, because they were taking too much. Or another opinion was one who slaughters a non-sacred animal for his own consumption is required to give the foreleg, the jaw, and the maw to a Kohen. The sons of Shmuel, even though they were not Kohanim, took these priestly gifts by force. This too was theft. Another interpretation, they forcibly took the gift of tithes that were due to Levites. Although this is not theft, it's forbidden. For the Gemara derives that a Kohen or Levite should not appropriate the gifts, but should wait until the owner gives them the gift. Okay? A lot of different ways to look at what they did. Were they outright sinners? Which everybody wants. Few people said yes to, but otherwise, actually only one person said when they took too many tithes. Otherwise, they weren't outright because really it was coming to them in some manner. But either I would have had a choice to give it, or I was dropped it out to and I didn't recuse myself. So again, I may have even judged properly, but it's still improper. And under all those circumstances, it would have been considered as doing wrong. And that's why they didn't follow in their father's footsteps. Okay? Let's go on. So, Alma Rabbi Shmuel Bar Nachmani, Amarav Yonatan, once again we hear the same person. He says, Kol HaOmer, David Chata. Now we're at David HaMelech. That he sinned, Enu Ela Toa. He's totally a mistake. Didn't sin, never sinned. Okay. Now, what are the sins that we could be talking about? Bathsheba, killing Uriah. It's a whole bunch of. I mean, when it comes to David and Melech, when the Tanach talks about him, it's unbelievable what goes on here. But like I said, it's on the headlines. He sinned every day. But it's when it comes down to it, we're going to find out he doesn't sin.
How long was he king, David?
40 years.
And what brought Solomon to the throne? Did David just die?
David died. Died in nice old age. He died at 70, yeah. Speak it up, man.
All right. The previous example would go to the children of Eli and children of Shmuel and Reuben from Yaakov. But for David, the first thing I thought of was David's big famous moments. Big thing is chatati.
Who?
His whole thing is chatati.
Chatati, right? I sinned, yeah.
Right. So does that have anything to do with their just anybody who said David's sin is wrong? Do they mention him being the repentance guy? Because that seems like
the answer is I don't know that I'm not sure that will play into this equation.
Okay.
And there was when he was saying we'll have to I forget we'll come to it if he says it, but just let's understand something. When David, everything that David did can be defended, and there's just run through it. When it comes to Bathsheba, she was divorced from her husband, so she wasn't married to Uriah at the time that they would have had relations. She wasn't even a nida because she had gone to the mikveh, so she wasn't even forbidden to a man at that point. Okay, so she's good. When it comes to Uriah, why would he have the permission to kill Uriah? Because when he told Uriah to go back to your wife, he didn't listen, and he said, "How can I go to my wife when my general Yoav is in the battlefield?" And so that was a direct rebellion of the king. The king tells you to do something, you have to do something. It doesn't matter what the general is doing. What do you care? The commander-in-chief told you to do something. So you have to do it. So he was in total rebellion. So he had every right to have him sent to the front line. And on top of that, he didn't kill him, he sent him to the front lines, which the odds are you're going to be killed. I mean, unless God doesn't want you to, you're dying that day. But so really, he didn't do anything wrong there either. All the way through, you can defend him on every single thing he did. There's a defense. Now, when he says chatati, I sinned, he's saying at my level of where I am, my position, not spiritual level, my position, headline-wise, I sinned. Okay? And again, please, let's just use the politics for what I want to use it for, and let's move on with it. Okay? Trump's headline was Trump colludes with Russians to fix election. So if now for 2 years we've been dealing with this stupidity, and to now come out with the Mueller says Trump didn't do it, and Democrats say impeach. Okay, that's the headlines. Okay, now. What is he right? Isn't he right? Did he do? Didn't he do? Well, again, so if he would be David Melech, which he's absolutely not, he would have said chatati.
Like he wasn't appointed by God.
Right, correct. He wasn't. Okay, I'm glad you agree. Okay, actually he was. All presidents, every ruler is. No. That's what Gemara says. Every ruler, everybody who gets, even if you are the one who is the head garbage guy, the head of the garbage patrol, that's an appointment from God. Yes. So everything ultimately is from God. Okay, so with all jokes put aside, everything is from God. So, but nonetheless, if he would say chatati because I allowed myself to have suspicion on me, that's what David was doing. Not that chatati, I sinned, I really did something wrong. Chatati, at my level of office, wherever is looking at me, I shouldn't have done that. I should have been above the fray. And I didn't. I wasn't. I fell. Chatati. That's really what he's saying, chatati.
Is that the Jewish or
Reuven, same thing, but Reuven doesn't say chatati.
That's what I'm saying. Reuven, if we give examples of people who we may say this in, but they didn't. So Reuven, children of Eli, children of Shmuel, and then come to David, but the first thing I remember about David is separate thing.
Right. But that's looking at repentance. I'm sorry, what?
Is Hatati the equivalent?
Chatati as I sinned. Chatati as I sinned.
Is that the same as the Christian mea culpa? Is that kind of sort of?
Mea culpa as I sinned?
Well, it means to accept responsibility for something that you did, or should mean that.
If
It's an admission of something.
okay, so it's again. I'm not.
Mea culpa means the guilt is upon me.
Okay, it could be the same thing. Sure. Now again, it depends on why are they saying it. Like, what I'm saying is, when David said it, he was saying, "The guilt of my office is upon me." Again, I did nothing wrong. As if I would have just been the guy in the street, I would have done nothing wrong. You have no legal claim against me, but because of my position, that is why you have it against me. Where I should have been, what I should have done is something totally different. Okay, now let's go up. So it says, so call home. So Shnei it says, David l'chol derachav maskil v'Hashem imo. For it says David was successful in all his ways, and Hashem was with him. Is it possible that David sinned and the divine presence was with him? Certainly not. It can't be. So if that's the case, how do you explain the next verse? How do you deal with what Nathan says to David when he says, "Why have you despised the word of Hashem to do that which is evil in my eyes?" God's eyes. My is God's eyes. Okay? And Shabikesh Lasov Lo Asa means that David sought to do a sinful act with Bathsheba, but in fact did not do it. Okay, that's one. That's an interesting statement. He wanted to, but he didn't. And again, at his level, he shouldn't have done it. And Hashem says you shouldn't have not even have thought about it. That's what you'd have to argue for that whole statement. Okay, so it says, if you look here. Okay, I explained number 10, so number 11. The verse describes the situation that existed long before the incident with Bathsheba. If so, why does the Gemara cite this as proof that David never sinned with her? So the Yaakov explains that the word maskil also means cogitate. And so the verse teaches that David always kept the divine presence in mind when planning his deeds, and hence it was impossible for him to commit so grave a sin as adultery. The Anaf Yosef there offers a different explanation. The Gemara in Sanhedrin teaches that the phrase Hashem was with him means that David was such a great Torah scholar that the halacha follows his ruling. Now the Gemara in Sota states that when one reaches this level of scholarship, he is saved from all. No sin will come about through him. This is why our Gemara infers that David certainly could not have committed adultery. So what happened? He sought to cohabit with Bathsheba when she received a bill of divorce from Uri, her husband, who was sending it from the battlefront. As the Gemara states below, all warriors who took place in the wars of King David gave bills of divorce to their wives, so that if the husband died childless, the woman would not be subject to levirate marriage with his brother. And if the husband was killed, or if the husband was killed without witness or captured, the wife would not become a naguna, a woman who cannot remarry, because she remains legally bound to her husband. So either way, the decree was that when you go into the armed forces, you go into battle, you give your wife a divorce. Not a conditional divorce, but a divorce. Total divorce. Now, what would happen is, the understanding was, if I return from battle, we'll get remarried. Shkavelech.
Could the divorce have been annulled as a marriage is annulled? Can you?
No. No, you can't annul it.
Why?
The only time you could annul either one is if something was wrong with the actual
original document.
not the document and the court. In other words, I cannot annul a marriage just because I don't like it. You have to get a divorce. I have to find something that was wrong with the initial nuptials. Okay?
Something halakhically, something.
Yeah. Which is why, in the last 2 seconds, if any non-Jews watch this, they'll enjoy this. Why is it that the Roman Catholics have such a hard time getting? They don't believe in divorce. So what happens? They have to pay the to get an annulment. It costs $2,000, and they say, so what a ripoff! It's $2,000. I'll get divorced. Now I won't go to church anymore. Okay, really, what's the whole concept of annulment, though? The whole concept of annulment is I had to find something at the very beginning of your marriage, 20 years ago, 5 years ago, 2 years ago, last month, whatever you did. I had to find something that was technically wrong with that marriage, and therefore the marriage never took place.
And whose requirement is that?
That would be in the Roman Catholics. That would be the priest. I don't know who does it, but I guess the Vatican. But they have to go through an annulment because they don't hold by divorce. We hold by divorce. The Torah says you don't like her, get a divorce. Give her a book of writ of divorce and send her away. So you have to.
The Catholic thing is that they can't remarry. Is that right?
No. They can't. They can get remarried. They cannot have a divorce. They have to annul and then they can get remarried because that means they were never married in the first place.
Yeah,
So again, annulment. The reason annulment is so hard is because I have to find something of the original marriage that wasn't right. Yeah. So if you would want to annul a divorce, you'd have to find something that was, I can't think of the legalistically incorrect with the divorce. And if you otherwise, why would I annul it? I don't want to annul it. It's not worth it. As a matter of fact, if you go back to the story, this one will get stuck on already. If you go back to the story of Purim, right? So Mordechai goes to Achashverosh and says, "Nullify the order, annul the order." And what's Achashverosh's response? You cannot annul the decree of a king. You can write a new one, but you cannot annul the other one because otherwise there's too many forgeries running around. So I can't annul it, but write a new order out. No problem. So the same thing here. If we start annulling marriages left and right, so then I can do anything. There's never an end to that. So now what I do is, so that's why the Torah said, you get married. If you don't get along with each other, try to work it out. You don't get it, give her a writ of divorce, send her away. Okay, she's free. Do what she wants. And the same thing with divorce. If the only one that cannot remarry his wife is a Kohen. That's it. Only a Kohen can. I'm the Kohen. Only a Kohen. If I once I give a divorce to my once a Kohen gives a divorce to his wife, he never ever ever can take her back. It's done because the Torah says a Kohen cannot marry a divorcee, even if it's your own. On the other hand, any other Jew in the world, as long as he's not a Kohen, divorces his wife and realizes, oh, that was a mistake. Chups her back. She has to agree. Takes her back, remarries her, and then, by the way, when you marry your wife, when you marry your divorced wife. And that's assuming nobody else married her in between. If somebody else married her in between, you can't do anything. Yeah. But if Reuven divorces Rivka, and then Levi marries Rivka, and then divorces or dies, Reuven can no longer remarry Rivka. That's the Torah too. Yeah, it only can be Reuven divorces Leah, and then Reuven realizes, oh, I really love Leah. Leah's my blah, blah, blah. And I'm going to go, and now I have to convince Leah to marry me again. She says yes, they get remarried. Only that way. If there's something in between, that's just legalized adultery. So the Torah says no to that. But like I said, the only guy who can't is the Kohen. So that was the problem. So when they're going into battlefield here, that's why it says that we'll have to stop here, but that's why it says that they didn't sin, because Uriah divorced his wife, namely Bathsheba, and so that she wouldn't end up as either an aguna or as what was the first one? An aguna or a levirate. Thank you, a levirate marriage, and that was it. Assume there were no kids there. And that was a rule they had. And then what happened is when he comes back, of course they're going to get remarried. That's no big deal. Again, it's a matter of when you marry your ex-wife, it's a one-day celebration. It's not a big thing, as opposed to a widow or something else. And then you have 3 days or something else. But here it's just okay. We're back together. Really, you don't start celebrating. You don't. We did this before. Okay?